I'm curious, one of my favorite things about you is when you started at 19, you were obviously very deep into the AI space, having been at MIT, having thought about it a lot. But, people have been studying and researching AI for decades, since before you were born. And yet, at least I like to think it was almost a benefit to you that you had, call it, the right combination of experience, thoughtfulness, passion, and some of the inexperience. You hadn't learned some of the wrong lessons that people learned from 20 years ago. So when a new technology comes along, you can back it. I think this is true of people at OpenAI as well. I think Ilya was one of the first people to jump on transformers and say, wow, this is totally different. And obviously he had deep expertise in the space, but it probably helped that he hadn't been doing it for 30 years. So he could take a fresh view and appreciate something new. What are some of the things that you think founders should not learn from the last decade or so of AI, the last 5 years of AI? What are things where you think there's opportunities to be a little naive?
Yeah, in general, I believe there's a huge premium to naivete. There's, you look at the fields, like you look at AI, you look at a lot of Elon's companies, there's just this like incredible track record, which is, approaching industries with a totally blank slate and without a fine-grained understanding of what makes things hard is actually part of what allows you to accomplish things that, other companies or other efforts are sort of in ruts and are therefore unable to accomplish. And I think, OpenAI is a great example of that. I think the things that I would probably encourage, founders be more open-minded about is probably the thinking about the business case or like not being so dogmatic about the sort of like exact, HBS business case style framework of thinking about the business. I think we talked about this a lot in the early days of Scale, which is that, when I think one of the funding rounds when we were pitching Scale, we got a lot of no's. We talked to a lot of investors and a lot of them were just like, yeah, we just don't see this being that important, or we just don't see it being that big, or, the TAM's a little small. And I think you made a great point, which is like, yeah, the TAM was small of every important company when they were getting started, basically. And the whole point is that it's growing super fast. So, you kind of just got to ignore them. And I remember being quite discouraged at the time, but I think, you helped encourage me in the moment. And I think it's true, in this case, the reason that an investor should have invested in Scale is because you believe that the AI industry was going to fundamentally grow many, many, many fold, which is obviously playing out today, but you had to have that conviction early on. I think as a founder, you need to have similar kinds of convictions.
You get all the inputs from the market and from other people, and they'll tell you that, well, that's a crazy idea or it can't be done. And then you go think about, well, if it could be done, how would you do it? And you figure out how to solve all the problems along the way. And so with diapers, nobody thought you could sell diapers online. Nobody thought you could do consumer products online. Like CPG was not a category at the time.
It was not.
At all, right? And it was like, everybody would say low margin, sort of big boxes, bulky items, commodities, like all those reasons you're not gonna sell, these products online. And here you go start diapers.com and in a way reinvent how people thought about a lot of elements of e-commerce, right? Which you made Amazon react, right? That's a pretty big statement.
Yeah.
And so what was it about the Quid C and diapers opportunity that gave you confidence to do something that everybody said didn't make sense? It's very unconventional.
The original thinking, and I think this is important when you're an entrepreneur, you need to have that naivete of not knowing too much about all the reasons why something can't work. Which I feel like that, having done, a decade plus of e-commerce, more than that, 15 years in e-commerce, when somebody would share an e-commerce idea, it's so easy to poke holes in it because the industry really well. You need that naivete to basically say, why not? And ask the question, why not? And when we started diapers.com, I was a new parent and always going out and buying diapers and thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, this is a commodity. I don't have to try it on. It's not a size problem, right?
Yeah.
Like it is for clothes and things like that. Like, you should be able to get diapers delivered and there's not gonna be any returns and you should be able to do it. And when I went online, nobody was selling diapers at all, or they were at ridiculous prices. And so you start asking industry people, and everybody had the same answer. It's a loss leader for Walmart and Target. It actually drives traffic in the store, so they're willing to take a loss on it. And that was the aha moment. I said, okay, well, how many things are they selling? They're like, oh, in a Walmart, there's 100,000 things. And online, there's millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. So if it's a loss leader to drive traffic in the store to sell everything else, and there's only 100,000, couldn't you take a bigger loss online because there's so many more products to monetize the relationship across? That was sort of like the aha moment.
I said, we're going B2B, but the other thing we didn't have a SaaS app. We were just an app.
I remember this.
Yes, you would sync through Dropbox or iCloud. And, you know, I think we had even met at that point in time. I'm like, I'm building a SaaS app, I'm building a B2B.
And I think I said, good luck.
Exactly. There was a talk I remember going to from Don Melton, and Don Melton is, again, the founder of, I say this, the founder of Safari, really a WebKit. And he said, how do you accomplish something amazing? And he said, you need two things. You know, you need ignorance and hubris. And it's like, because if you know the problems that you're going to face, you'll never start it, and you just need to believe that you can do it. And that was us. We were full of ignorance and full of hubris. We were going to do this. And so we set about, we built a SaaS app, we built a B2B app. It took us, I'll say, a couple of years. And in 2016, we launched 1Password for Business, which when I look back at it now, it's kind of like 1Password for bowling leagues. But, you know, it was a V1. And we grew from there.